All right, we did it. We finally were able to link up after all of these technical difficulties we have, including me forgetting to press record on the first time we tried to do this. But now we're live. We're ready to go. We're back. I'm here with Mr. Joe Stanek. Joe, how are we doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on and sticking with me through all the technical difficulties.
I mean, thanks for sticking with me, and thanks for agreeing to start over after I did not press record as we got 5 or 10 minutes in. But I really, really appreciate how patient you've been.
Dude, it is fine. Like I mentioned just before, half the reason I have like a nicer mic is because I enjoy being on podcasts. So totally cool.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, what you do, who you are, the whole 9 yards. Take it away.
Yeah, so my name is Joe Stanek, and I am a powerlifting coach, gym owner, and as much as I hate saying it, fitness influencer based in Austin, Texas. I run a few different businesses. I am a full-time powerlifting coach with my own business, Gameday Barbell. Speaking of which, I also am 1/3 owner of a gym that shares that name that we just opened up in October. I am one of the co-owners of Gameday Nutrition, which is a supplement company. And like I mentioned before, I do a little bit of dabbling in fitness social media on Instagram, YouTube, and mainly TikTok.
What's it like being an influencer nowadays in the fitness world?
I just want to preference that I don't like identifying myself as an influencer because I just feel like it just feels cringy saying that. The only reason that I say that is because, I do have the ability to kind of, influence things with my following, at least on TikTok for sure. It's weird, man. The interesting thing, or I think I would say the most interesting thing for me, is that I've gotten the chance to like influence people into powerlifting, which is really cool. Like there was a person, we went down to Houston a few months back to visit Russ Swole's gym, Corrupted Strength.
And I went there when I was down there.
Yeah, it's a cool gym, right?
Yeah.
So they had us there as sort of the like, I don't want to say like the guests of honor, but they like, they promoted the fact that we were all coming. And somebody came up to me and asked me to sign their belt. And they said, yeah, I started powerlifting because of you. And that just like blew my mind. I was like, because it's not like I'm like the world's strongest individual or anything like that. And I certainly don't consider myself like the world's greatest powerlifting coach, but that was, that blew my mind. It's cool. It's weird as well. I when I've been like out on the town here in Austin a couple of times, like just people, I'll be having a drink with the guys and somebody will come up to me and be like, yo, I follow you on TikTok. And it's just so weird. It's odd. I don't know that it feels almost like I shouldn't be getting that recognition. If that sounds weird enough, I don't like having people come up to me. I like it when people come up to me. Like like, please, if you're listening to this and you ever see me, please introduce yourself. But it almost just feels wrong, Like I don't feel like I earned it per se. But then I look back and this past year has been really big for me in terms of my growth on that platform. Like being at almost 250,000 followers. Like, yeah, I guess in a way, I'm an influencer, quote unquote.
What's it like being recognized in public? Like how often does that happen?
Not super often. That would require me to be out in public more. And I mean, the gym is basically my life right now, but it's been, I would say every couple of months, maybe like a person will come up and be like, hey, I follow you on TikTok. If I'm in like a fitness space. Yeah. And it does happen at the gym all the time. When I'm working, some people will, like they'll come up to me and they're like, oh, I didn't realize that was you. It doesn't help that I've like changed my appearance a bunch recently, but yeah, they're like, I follow you on TikTok, man. I love your videos. And it's just, it's weird. But yeah, if I'm out in public, maybe once every like 2-3 months, something like that.
I feel like being a fitness influencer, quote unquote, has definitely, I feel like it's become a lot different over the past few years because I feel like the market's a little more saturated now. Definitely. I guess you could say, because a lot of the guys you see, a lot of the big influencers out there who have large followings, I feel like if they started today, they would not be nearly as successful as they were when they started. I feel like they got in at kind of the right time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, admittedly, that is like the only reason that I think I did as well on TikTok as I'm doing is because I got in at the right time. So shout out to my partner, Tim Thibodeau. He was kind of the first one out of the three of us that owned Gameday, who got on TikTok. And he was just like, guys, you got to get on here. Like now's the time. If you don't get on the train, it's going to take off. And so I was like, sure, why not? And somehow over the course of this like year, I've just, kind of figured out how to make content that resonates with people on there. I don't think that I'm doing anything that's revolutionary. And admittedly, since coming to Austin and working on the gym, my growth has definitely, slowed down a ton. But I'm still making my way in there, but I do believe that eventually, at some point I'll be able to crack the million barrier, which I know is a lot. That's like, 4 times what I currently have, but I totally think that it's possible. So yeah, it's all about timing, honestly. And I mean, admittedly, I probably need to branch out more as far as social media goes. Prior to this past year, Instagram was kind of my focus, and I was able to grow that pretty well too. I think it's just a matter of like learning how to post properly, post what people are looking for, and how to do well on that. Yeah.
The cool thing about TikTok is it has such a favorable algorithm. So anyone who's just getting started could have a post that gets 1 million views or anything like that. As opposed to YouTube, if you post a video, like your first videos, it's almost impossible for it to show up anywhere, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. And again, that's coming from me who like wants, like I want to branch into other forms of social media, but yeah, it's just like, it's almost like, is it worth my time?
Right.
Because the return on investment isn't quite there. And I mean, again, that's one of the reasons why I think TikTok is great, is it really, like, once you learn the different things that you have to post, it's not super, like, it's not so involved that you must like dedicate hours and hours to it every single day. Admittedly, you do have to post every single day, but it could honestly be only like 20 minutes of your time if you have like stuff that really resonates with people. I'm always kind of like a volume man when it comes to TikTok, because you have to be seen within the algorithm in order to get people to come to your page. But there are some people on TikTok that post like once a day, and they, the guy who comes to mind is Noel Dazel. I don't know if you are familiar with him. He's a bodybuilder. He's probably the biggest fitness personality on TikTok. And the man, he only posts like once or twice a day. And, he's just got crazy, like he's obviously crazy big, but he's also got like crazy good camera quality and has a really good editor. So, he's just able to kind of do that. It's definitely like an interesting place to be in terms of creating content overall. And it's always evolving, which is fun.
It's almost reminds me a little bit of Vine. I'm not sure exactly what happened to that, but I know it was a thing once upon a time. And it's a lot different from YouTube in regards to, like you said, you don't have to spend hours and hours planning a video or editing a video. It's something you could spend, like you said, or in your case, 20 to 30 minutes on creating content a day and still gain a sizable following from that.
Yeah. And I mean, admittedly, I do think in order for me to hit that million range that I talked about before, I am going to have to probably put like more like steady editing into things and just do things like that that are just higher levels of content. But I think for somebody who's just starting out to like the 100, 200K range, which I know sounds like a lot, but I would say it's easier to get that kind of a following on TikTok. You can definitely like you don't need much except your phone and whatever you want to produce.
All right, let's kind of get back into you here a little bit. What's it like being a powerlifting coach? Because I remember when I was into powerlifting, all I wanted to do was become a powerlifting coach. That was what I really, really wanted to do. I said, if I could just be a coach the rest of my life, I'd be happy. Now I'm kind of happy I didn't do that because I'm not as into powerlifting as I once was. I still find it pretty interesting. But what is it like in this day and age being a coach?
So it's definitely a blast, man. To me, it's one of those types of professions where you get out of it what you put into it, for sure. Mm-hmm. And you also kind of have to find your footing. I will admit that, over the past 5 years, I've not always been in love with being a powerlifting coach. It also doesn't help that over the past 3 years or so, I haven't been super active on the platform myself, just for various reasons, either professional or I've dealt with injuries, stuff like that. But overall, it's definitely a net positive. At the end of the day, like anything that you do regularly is always going to be work, no matter what. But the way that I always put it is, I would much rather, suffer doing my favorite thing than like be happy doing something that like sucks my soul out. But it's a lot of fun. I, again, have kind of evolved my style over the course of working as a powerlifting coach. For the longest time, it used to be like, oh, people would send me like an email once a week. And now it's a little bit like higher contact. Admittedly, you do kind of have to set boundaries with your clients. I think that one of the things that a lot of younger powerlifting coaches, when they first get into it, they make themselves almost too accessible, myself included. So I've kind of had to like pull back on that for my own like mental health, but also just so I'm not like being a helicopter coach. Like for the first like year or two, I always like, I was always like checking on my clients, being like, how's things go, to the point that like, it was almost like I was trying to like baby them rather than coach them. And there's a big difference between those. But it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of lifters these days are just expecting higher and higher standards, and you do have to evolve your practices. It's something that I think if you don't invest in continuing education, you will find yourself swept away in the job. It's something that I'm always putting time into, and along with myself, we have a team of coaches at Gameday Barbell besides me. And all of the coaches, one of the things I told all of them when I hired them was that I was going to invest in their continuing education, because I do think that it doesn't make much sense to just kind of assume that training science is always going to be there. And I don't want to put that just on them to find out. Like, I want to provide them resources. So like currently the whole team is taking a biomechanics course in powerlifting coaching. There's a woman up in Canada, Dr. Megan Bryanton, who teaches the biomechanics of the power lifts. So that's what her PhD is in. So she has a I think it's like a 15 or 16 lesson course that the whole team is just taking online at their own pace right now. But it's, again, just stuff like that I think is important. And if you're to kind of bring the whole thing around, if you're not doing that, you're probably going to end up like losing out clients to coaches that are willing to put in the time for that.
I love that idea. And I think it's a good almost metaphor for life in a way, taking it outside of powerlifting, because I personally feel like complacency is the root of all evil, and it can really ruin almost everything. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a social life or business or whatever the case may be. I feel like if someone just gets really complacent and just stops whatever they're doing at a certain point, eventually it's going to catch up to them in one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure.
How many clients do you? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and I think that's the problem with online coaching right now too, is that because there's no real barrier to entry, like anybody can put, DM me for coaching in their bio and they're a coach, and therefore people are just complacent with it. It's just, but ultimately it is how the market weeds out good coaches from bad.
How many clients do you have right now anyway?
So I keep anywhere between like 30 and 40. But I also have like another option that's just like a programming only thing where I don't interact with them as much. I'll talk to them maybe once every like 3 months on a video call. And then other than that, they just will send me like an email with how their training block went. So total, it's probably a little bit closer to 60, but in terms of the ones that I interact with, on and off is anywhere between 30 and 40.
Now, what do those 30 and 40 that you have that have, I guess, more of your immediate attention, what do those coaching packages come with exactly?
Sure. Wow. You let me plug my stuff. I appreciate
it.
Yeah, dude. So the more interactive is called All Access. And the main reason for that is it really like they can talk to me pretty much as much or as little as they prefer, so long as they're meeting kind of a certain threshold. So at a minimum, I ask them to send me their heaviest squat, bench press, and deadlift session of the week in terms of like some different angles and their thoughts on it. Now, most people aren't like that. Most people obviously interact a lot more, but I like to leave the amount that they want to be talked to up to them, because everybody has a little bit of a different learning style. Everybody has different needs, and honestly, those kind of ebb and flow a lot. And then every 2 weeks, I sit down. No matter what, I sit down with every client to talk about how their training is going, and maybe go a little bit more in depth with them on technique for about 20 to 30 minutes. But I usually, like, I use a private messenger service for that communication that I mentioned before. And then I'll hop on something like a Google Meet with them for the video call. So I check that private messenger a couple times a day. I'll, elaborate on different questions that they have. I might send them a video if they aren't getting something down in terms of technique. But I also use that as sort of a way to kind of control the interaction too. Cause like I mentioned before, I still, admittedly, if I'm like really, really free on a day, sometimes I break my own rules and I go on it more than I should. But usually I have like a grace period of time where I'm on there, responding relatively quickly. And then I'm, away for a few hours. Then I come back in the evening, and that's generally how I do it. And then I'll shut it down after 6 p.m. Local time for me. And then after that point, I will not check my phone. And again, that's just because before I used to just answer messages all night, and that wasn't great for my own mental health. Plus, like, just clients knowing that they always have access to you is probably not the best thing, especially if somebody is the kind of person that like won't do anything on their own. Because I do think there should be a certain level of independence with athletes, and then the other package, like I said, is a little bit more hands off. It's still the full like customized training, but whereas somebody, I forgot to mention this with the first one, like somebody might get their training on like a weekly basis with the all access option. This one is kind of like on a block by block basis, and then like I said, the interaction is limited strictly to like if they have a question, they email me, or if they're done with their training block, they fill out a survey and send an email. And then we talk every like 3 months or so.
Now, answering messages all night, I find was that bad for your overall productivity?
Oh yeah, for sure. The issue was that I tried so much to do like I tried to do those, like everything else that I was doing, I tried to do at the same time that I was like answering messages. So it wasn't like there was a dedicated period of time for pretty much anything in my life. It was just like trying to do everything at once. And so like one of the things that has had to evolve over time as I've, sort of trial and error to being a professional coach, is just, really dedicating only that time to it.
Right.
And that's made things easier on me, and it's made the interactions with athletes a lot more high quality. It's something that like before I sort of had that, I almost call them like my office hours. Before I had those, it was just like, it didn't really feel like a job per se, which, I'm saying that in a negative. There obviously were some benefits to it. But now it really feels like I'm actually able to be like more productive. And like I said, like now my evenings are my own, which I didn't realize for the longest time. Like I was always feeling like super stressed about work, and I didn't really realize what it was until I was like, oh, I don't have any free time. I don't do anything else besides work. I probably should do some stuff for myself. And to anyone out there who might be listening, who's interested in being an online coach, I'll just say it. Do not give your entire life to a job. It doesn't even matter if it's just online coaching, any job. Don't get me wrong. You need to hustle. You need to, put in work for your job, but give yourself some free time. You need it.
It's funny because I guess this is along the same lines, but I just deleted like Instagram and Facebook completely off of my phone. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how much more time I have. It's
right.
Absolutely. And obviously it's not the same thing as powerlifting coaching, but I guess along the same lines of always checking things, always being on something, always, I guess, not focusing on what's in front of you. It is along the same lines. And I feel like it's just given me time to do things that I never even thought I would have time to do.
I agree.
It like blows my mind.
I agree. I think, I haven't quite gotten to that stage yet, but I've done something similar before, where I've actually taken all of my social media and put it on like a separate phone, and that's definitely kind of helped. But I also learned that was more of a, at least for me, that was more of a band-aid than it was actually solving the problem. But it sort of helped kickstart that, and eventually, just kind of turned into more of like a, like I need to manage my self-control kind of thing, which, as weird as that might sound, the way that those apps are designed, you're to be on them constantly.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely agree with you there. It's productivity, especially like now that I have more like split responsibility than just being an online coach. It's super important. And again, like I said before, if I want to have free time, it's a matter of being productive during the day.
What was kind of your best experience through coaching you've had so far?
Oh, there's so many. Geez, I feel like, I think I would say my best experience was probably, I think probably at the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic, watching my client Angelo Fortino break the national deadlift record was probably my favorite, just because it was something where my own client, Yangsu Ren, was the one who had set that record before. So it was kind of cool because it helped me sort of realize as a coach, like, oftentimes like when people are first starting out, when they're working with like a strong athlete for the first time, they think like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime sort of deal. It makes you feel like, oh, if I mess this up sort of thing, like I'm never going to be successful again. And in a way, for me, lightning struck twice in that case. I was able to, in fact, if you look at all of the drug tested records here in America, like 2 out of the best 3 lifters are people that I've coached. So that's probably, I would say, number one, followed very closely by watching my client Kirill win IPF Worlds. That was in Sweden.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was really cool, and that's a cool little like bucket list item. I've had an athlete win an IPF World Championship. That's pretty cool. The only thing that's kind of left for me now is I have yet to train somebody who's like an all-time world record holder. So once I do that, I can just retire at that point.
Just retire and quit. Go back to the gym.
Yeah. I can just be just be done. No, but and there's so many other great memories. Like I've been able to train a handful of open, junior, and sub junior champions across various federations. I've had a couple people, go to the Kern US Open and just like a bunch of other like really cool, like untested meets and things like that. Like I've had the chance to really do it all across like the whole spectrum of powerlifting, which has been really fun. But yeah, those are the highlights for sure.
What was it like going to Worlds?
So I've been to Worlds twice. I would say the trip because the first time I went to Worlds, it was in Calgary, which, no offense to Calgary. Calgary is cool and all, but it's still, it's Canada. I've been to Canada before. But going to Sweden the second time in 2019, it was very cool. It felt very fun to travel. And, I got to handle my athletes that were there, and it was a blast. The only complaint that I would have is that it was just a little too quiet. It didn't really feel super sport like, you know what I mean? At least not when I'm like used to all of the production and excitement of Raw Nationals.
Right.
But it was really cool. It was very, very cool meeting like people from all over the world. I made friends that are in a bunch of different countries that I still will talk to this day. My buddy Kedrick, who currently resides in New Zealand, just texted me a happy belated birthday a few minutes ago. So that's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really fun experience, and admittedly, with like the split between USA Powerlifting and the IPF, I am kind of sad that's going to no longer be a thing. But it's okay. I have no doubt that there will be more opportunities for international competition in the future.
What is like just the landscape like over there? Because I've never been outside the country, so
really?
I can imagine, never. So I wonder. I mean, in my mind, how it will like differ from the United States, how everything looks. You know what I mean?
Sweden for me was like a lot of rolling like green hills kind of thing. And then it was in Helsingborg, which is like a semi-major city. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But a lot of the architecture there is just very different. It's just not quite constructed the same. And there's like, like the Lime scooters that people will ride on in major cities, tons of those everywhere. A lot of people riding on bikes. And just, I don't know, it was just weird because, everything's in like another language and I'm just like, oh, okay, I can't read any of this. I really had to like rely on my phone to figure out where I was going.
Right.
It was honestly just like any other major city that I've been to, just, with like slightly different architecture. The World Championships was at this like really cool sport hall too. I don't know what it was normally used for, but being there, like it had like stadium like seating that was all kind of like looking down at the platforms, which was really cool. I also got to commentate while I was there.
Really?
So that was fun. Yeah. So I did that at both worlds that I went to. My friend Ryan Lapidat, who runs King of the Lifts, he's the like main commentator. So he invited me on, and that was really cool. But yeah, if you go back and watch some of the sessions, I'm speaking along with Ryan. I think the 74 kilo juniors is the one that I did in Sweden.
How long were you on there for in real time? Like, what was that, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Oh, the whole session, like
the entire thing.
Yeah, probably like 3 hours.
Oh wow, like that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a long time. We only got like breaks in between the lifts, which were like 10 minutes. So yeah, it's a little taxing. Again, something that I'll definitely miss going forward. But it's just like at the end of the day, I believe in what USA Powerlifting is doing. So sticking with them as far as where my allegiances lie, if that's such a thing.
I've always wondered, kind of like completely off topic here, but as a commentator, what happens if, as you're calling, you have to go to the bathroom or anything like that comes up?
I mean, that is, I think, one of the reasons why there are two of them. If one person goes, the other person can kind of hold their own.
Right.
And it's just a matter of like, knowing your facts and figures. One of the things that I think one of the reasons why Ryan had me on so much is I always like did my research before I headed on to like the commentary. But like a lot of the times, like the commentators and again, like no offense to anybody else who's a commentator at Worlds, but you would get there and they wouldn't really have any information in front of them. So they couldn't really like talk about much. So I would have to do some like social media stalking. And when Open Powerlifting, which is like the open database of powerlifting results that is out there, when that became a thing, I started using that. And I literally every person in the session, I looked up their stats and was like, this is what they've done. Here's what their training on social media was like. And it gave me something to talk about. Whereas before it would be the same rehash of the rules like every other second. And it's just like, okay, we get it. Like the majority of the people that are watching this are powerlifters. We know what the rules are.
Right. You were just you were in Virginia at the USAPL Pro Day, right?
Yep, the first professional event for USA Powerlifting, which was pretty cool. Like I mentioned before, my client Angelo Fortino, he got to break his own record. He pulled 771 at like 181 pounds. That was nice. That was a pretty cool one. And then I recently just started coaching Austin Perkins, who's one of the best 74 kilo lifters out there, and he had a pretty good day. He was beating himself up because he missed his third bench, and that kind of cost him like top 3. But it was one of those situations where like it would have. Deadlift is kind of the lift that has kind of been a little bit finicky for him recently. And if he would have gotten that, it would have taken some pressure off of his deadlift. It would have basically been easier for him to kind of secure second place. And unfortunately, it was just like 2.5 kilos too much. It was something that I was beating myself up about it for like 2 seconds, but it's just like, it was worth the risk at the end of the day. But he's doing well. They're both doing the Arnold, and I've got, I think 2 or 3 others that are also doing the Arnold. It just depends on who signs up for what.
What's the Arnold like? I've always heard great things about the Arnold.
The Arnold Classic as a whole is super fun. I've been going to that since I was like 13, 14.
Wow.
Because I grew up about 3 hours from Columbus, so it's relatively easy drive. It's a really cool event as far as like powerlifting goes. It's for many their favorite event of the year, myself included. don't get me wrong, I love Raw Nationals, and the spectacle of Raw Nationals is fun, but I love the Arnold because it's a single platform meet that just you really get the chance to like just feature the lifters. So yeah, that one, that was a blast, and always has been a blast. It's very like, it's a couple events over the course of like 3 days that highlights literally the best in the sport. And for the Pro Series, not this year, but starting next year, it'll become sort of the penultimate event. That'll be the Super Bowl of USA Powerlifting starting in 2023.
That sounds exciting.
Like, yeah. The basic premise of it is like throughout the Pro Series, you garner points for your placings, and then I think it's like the top 10 to 15 pros, like they get invited to I don't know, maybe the Pro Series finale, whatever they're calling it, and they duke it out based on the formula, the DOTS formula, which is kind of like Wilks, that sort of thing. Whoever has the best DOT score at the end of that is the winner of the Pro Series for the year.
Wow!
They get the belt for the year per se.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool, and the prize money will be the biggest at that event, and just different things like that. It's really, really cool, and I'm excited to see like what exactly the organization has planned in order to make that into that big spectacle.
What was it like going to the Arnold for so many years as just a spectator, and then all of a sudden going back as a coach? Was it almost surreal, like full circle type thing?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I can recall like many times like watching like the strongman events or the bodybuilding ones. And it's funny, like powerlifting, prior to like, I had never really watched any of the powerlifting events, which is kind of funny because I was a powerlifter. I just never really knew that they had it there. And then as soon as I got my internship that got me like into coaching, that was kind of the first year that I recall like, going and seeing all the powerlifters just going crazy. I remember seeing, there's this guy, oh gosh, what was his name? Oh, I can't remember his name. He was really popular. I think Johnny Candido popularized him. It's Josh something.
Josh Hancock.
Yeah, that was it. I could not remember his last name for the life of me. But I remember him breaking the open world record that year at the Arnold. And I remember Lane Norton squatting like 300 keys for the first time, which, at the time was just like insane. You're, 200 pounds and drug free and you're squatting 661. Like that.
Now everyone does that.
Yeah, I know. It's like if you don't do that, you're just not competitive. But at the time, like that was just crazy. So like that was a really hype meet. And that was kind of where like I wasn't coaching anyone at the time, but I was like observing and seeing how that went. And like, that was like, okay, this is what this is like. And it's just kind of been cool ever since. And, at that meet the following year, I was coaching at that point, which was pretty darn cool.
I wonder what guys like Josh Hancock are doing now. Cause I don't even think he's into powerlifting anymore.
I think he did a comeback meet a little while back, if I recall correctly. I don't know what he's doing at this point. I remember if I'm not mistaken, he went through like law school or something like that. I think he's still like into lifting, but like, he had a pretty catastrophic back injury. So I don't think he's like super involved anymore.
Is Lane Norton still powerlifting?
He is. Is he actually?
Really?
Yeah. My coach, the person who works with me now, cause obviously, we have a mutual background in being coached by Evan. Shout out Evan. After Evan kind of like retired from powerlifting coaching, my next coach and my current coach, Zach from Data Driven Strength, he actually coaches Lane currently. Really?
Mm-hmm. I feel he's someone like if he could just stay healthy.
I agree.
That's his biggest issue. He's just always hurt. I haven't followed him in a while, but when I was following him, he was constantly rehabbing, constantly.
Yeah. So Lane's problem is, and I don't want to like make it sound like I'm like, being like, oh, I know better than Lane, but I think Lane's problem is he kind of got swept up in that age of powerlifting where it was just like the training volume that you're doing is everything. Like you have to be doing so many more pounds of volume or you're not going to make progress. And because he just pushed and pushed and pushed, add to the fact that Lane is probably not shaped super well for powerlifting. Like he's got like, he doesn't have like terrible leverages, but he has like, what I would consider on the the not so great side for all of the lifts. There's only so much bad leverage that you can overcome through muscle mass, and just beating himself up continuously, like over and over and over again. It makes it hard to come back from. And I say that as somebody who has done that himself. I have a history of pretty bad knee problems from just like beating the hell out of myself with training. I completely my own, like I will own that fact that's, something that I did. But it takes a lot to come back from that sort of stuff. It's possible, but it takes a lot.
Are your knees still bothering you today?
No, they're fine now. I actually, right now, just because when we were building Gameday, we were literally doing all of the construction ourselves. So I wasn't training super hard. And then I just had some personal stuff happen, that like the gym just like became more of a stressor than a stress reliever. So I'm actually just kind of really getting back into hard training this past month, and my knees are fine. No issues, at the moment, knock on wood. But yeah, it's, for me training right now is more, it's a little bit less serious in terms of like the powerlifting side of things. It's more just me, just kind of lifting for fun and just enjoying the gym again. But I will be transitioning back into my powerlifting training like early part of next year. I just kind of need a little bit of a base again,
right?
Because I'm pretty detrained at the moment. I'm sitting here and my quads are still sore from squatting like last week.
That's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny because I saw a video from Max when he went to Gameday, and I saw Tim mention that he hadn't trained in 6 weeks, and this was around the time you and I started talking, and I'm thinking,
Yep.
I can only imagine. No wonder why Joe's so busy right now. He's probably just has more things than he can like think about handling.
Yeah. And as we're all settling more into the routine, like that's helping us out for sure. I know, with Tim, like he decided to dabble in weightlifting, and that's making it a lot easier on him. Cause when you're hardcore powerlifting, like those sessions are just so long. And I think that's another one of the reasons why for me, my own powerlifting training has been like I've been a little bit hesitant to get into it. It's just because like, I don't want to, I'm finally starting to get into a routine here with my own work, after like just, being hard to manage my time with the construction of the gym. And I don't want to like give that up yet. The current training that I'm doing is, I'll say suboptimal in terms of like, all the different like volume measures and things like that, but it's fun, and it takes me like 45 minutes to an hour. So it's nice. Something that's, it's something that's easy to fit in. And is a lot of fun. It's actually one of those like, old school, like, how back in the day, how all the best training programs were on like forums. Yeah. So it's dog crap training. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So it's like a 3-day a week training program that is all about like these like crazy rest pause sets and stuff like that. Again, something that like arguably speaking, I probably don't need to do to see growth, especially like having not trained for so long. I could probably get away with something that's less intense, but it's really fun. It's super fun. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Was that the first time you met Max when he came to that gym?
No, I met Max back at the Arnold actually, and there's actually a funny story. I somehow ended up having dinner with him, Christian, Nikki back when he was dating her, Chris Jones, and Vince Garza.
Oh wow.
Yeah, along with like a handful of my friends. My friend Eric Konevsky, like he still makes YouTube videos actually, really different direction at this point, but he was making YouTube videos, and he just like had some kind of like connection with them. So we all ended up having dinner together. And I got to like sit across from Christian. I remember he mentioned to me, like, he's like, what do you think of the name Alpha Elite? I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool, man.
That's so
and
funny.
Like, yeah. And like, here he is today with Alpha Elite and stuff like that.
I see everyone wearing that clothing line.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I don't even know how it's gotten so big. It's like bigger than him, which is very hard to do in that space, I feel like.
I agree, man. I think, admittedly, like that's kind of something like well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons for starting game day in general, the gym and the supplements, is that that's kind of one of my goals. I want to be able to build something that like outlasts me, that I can like pass on to other people to run and be able to kind of continuously see growth with that. And I definitely think that's how Christian's brand has gone.
Right. When I was down in Texas, I met Max and did a podcast with him, and it was weird seeing him in a serious role.
I know, right?
Like, he was actually, I don't want to say he was actually having a conversation, but he wasn't loud and yelling. He was a real person. And I'm like, this is not what I'm used to.
Yeah,
to be frank.
In person, it's very interesting. He's a lot more like mellow, like
Right.
just kind of chilling out. But when he came to the gym, Tim and I were saying to him that he we need some sour strips for the gym. He's just like, we're the supplies are a little low right now, but for Tim, we got you. So we had a big shipment of sour strips show up a few weeks later, and that was pretty cool.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Let's go back to kind of you here, move on to the next segment here. Let's talk a little bit about your supplement company. So
Sure.
What made you want to start that? Like, we'll start from the very beginning here.
So originally, this is way back actually. I would say I think it was like 2018. I had this idea for a product that would kind of, and admittedly, we're still kind of working on this product. So I guess I could talk about it because it's coming here soon. We were coming like I noticed a lot of lifters were like drinking like soy sauce after they weighed in for powerlifting meets, and I was thinking to myself, like, there's got to be like a decent product that like could replace this. And then that's when like tri-oral started to become popular, just different things like that amongst lifters. But I still think like I've still been thinking to myself, like, okay, we can improve upon that. Like there could be a much better product that is good for hydration. So at the time, I was going to call that product Gameday because it's something that you take on like during a powerlifting meet.
Right.
I worked on it for I worked on formulation for a really long time. I went to school for like exercise science, and I have some nutritional knowledge. I know how to read research. So I just started formulating, and it got to the point that I just didn't have the spare coin. So I put that on the back burner, and then I met Richard Cho, one of my partners. I met him at 2019 Worlds, and we started talking about that product because I mentioned to him that because he kind of got famous for like making these really big weight cuts down to 74. So I mentioned it to him, and he had the idea of like kind of coming together and utilizing his resources and my own sort of like base knowledge of supplements and going together on that. And we just kind of started going, and we at the time, this is like last year basically, we started going in on that, and we were both kind of gaining popularity on TikTok, and we decided that the name Gameday would become the name of the supplement line instead, and that we would rename that product into something else. And we also decided that we were going to have like some more like we'll call it like normal supplements first before we came out with that, just so that we could like garner some kind of following. So we came out with our original product, which is called Duet. It's a 2-ingredient, basically like caffeine product. So rather than just like standard caffeine, it's caffeine and theanine. Theanine being included because it helps cut the jitters from caffeine and amplify some of the cognitive effects. And we sold out of that completely, which was super awesome. And now currently we're sort of in limbo just because the supply chain issues here in the States have kind of held back our ability to produce exactly what we wanted in terms of like volume. But we're going to be launching our newest product, which is a full-on pre-workout called Ultra, relatively soon. That's coming out in 2 different flavors, Baja Margarita and Orange Mimosa. It's a high stim, high pump ingredient type product. Just basically like if you're a powerlifter or a bodybuilder, it's the type of stuff that you want to take before you train. The whole idea behind Gameday Nutrition though was just wanting to produce supplements that are evidence-based, that are fun to take and fulfill a certain role. I think in the supplement industry, and not that I'm an expert because I'm a year into it. I think in the supplement industry, there's room for everybody. You just have to have a product that's like just unique enough. And yeah, So that's kind of where we're at with it, and why we began. And we also have we do have one sort of secret product that we've been working on behind the scenes for a very long time, since the company's inception, that I can't really say anything about. But I do think that if it works out, I think it has the potential to take the company to the next level. It's something that nobody else is doing.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how did you even know where to begin to put into all these supplements, all the pre-workouts and all these different things? Did you just have that background knowledge from just seeing so many things throughout the years, or did you really have to dive in and do a ton of research here?
So a lot of it was just background knowledge on things that I had known either in my classes. Actually, believe it or not, TikTok kind of helped with that too, mainly because I got used to getting people asking me about certain supplements and things like that. Because I mentioned, I think I mentioned to you previously, one of the types of content that I put out on there is kind of debunking. So, being able to look at research and recognize okay, this is what this product actually does, is something, that I have to do from time to time on my content. So I just kind of got used to that. And obviously, I have a background in that in schooling, and it's able to, you're kind of able to sort of sort through all that bullshit that doesn't really have any decent research behind it, as a result of that. And that's kind of where I was with this, with putting together the different ingredients that were on these. Again, I don't really have a chemistry or biochemistry background. I have a basal knowledge of it, but it's honestly more just being able to read and understand the research and pathways that a lot of these ingredients take and why they work.
Now, how far do you want to expand this? I know you said you have some new products coming, something that could definitely change the game, but how big do you want this supplement brand to be? What's kind of your vision for it looking out, say, 5 years or so?
So within 5 years, myself and Richard, and also Tim and Richard's girlfriend Jen, who are minor partners in the company with us, we would love to see it to be we want to see it become its own sort of independent thing. Right now, it's just kind of a our background project that we're continuously working on. It's essentially another product that we people almost associate with our gym currently, but we want it to be its own thing. I would be lying to you if I didn't say that we look up to Nick Bear, who runs Bear Performance Nutrition, which is also based here in Austin. The stuff that he's doing with his company are definitely something that I think we all kind of strive to get to at some point. Being able to make that into its own thing, being able to rent office space, I think would be a really cool first step. So if we can do that in 5 years, I think we're doing something right. But being able to we have a couple sponsored athletes currently, which is really cool. But being able to really take that not only in powerlifting, but really expand it to other parts of the fitness industry, bodybuilding, weightlifting, and maybe even other sports as well. That I will say that is something that are the original product that we were talking about, which is now called Hydro. That's something that I think could be expanded into other sports, weightlifting, MMA, pretty much any kind of martial art or wrestling, any weight class based sport where you have to weigh in. Hydration is usually important. So something like that could absolutely work in anything like that. And I think that's where we all want the company to go to. Right now, it's just a matter of being able to get the resources that we need, and make sure that we're kind of on the same page with our manufacturers. Actually, speaking of which, I would say another sort of goal for us is to be able to work with a larger manufacturer. Not that our manufacturer that we currently have is bad, but they're kind of a smaller company that's used to dealing with small order batches. We'd like to get to the point where we have enough capital, where we can, be making these huge purchases and be able to go to the manufacturing facility, and personally observe that and just really be able to go big on a lot of the orders. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, these products right now, they're mainly just online, right?
Yeah. Once we have stock of the new products, because like I said, we sold completely out of all of our other products. Once we have stock of it, they'll be available, brick and mortar in our gym. But honestly, it's probably going to be mainly online anyway. Not that it wouldn't be cool to get our products into GNC and stuff like that. But I really think that there's less value in that these days than there is with just online retail. I could see us maybe potentially getting orders from companies like, your bodybuilding.coms, your Tiger Fitnesses, like those kinds of companies, like that would be a really cool step. I would love to be able to do that. But in terms of like getting it into actual brick and mortar, other than maybe like, if somebody wants to purchase it and sell it in their gym, I don't know that that's kind of a step for us. We're not closed off to it, of course.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe if like Russ wanted to put that in his gym or something like that, anything along those lines, or even Alphalete or anything else in the Texas area,
right?
That's something you'd be open to.
Oh yeah, that'd be super cool. I'm pretty sure Russ has a commitment with 110, and I don't get me wrong. I think I don't necessarily think that like Christian's like married to a company, but I'm pretty sure he and Ghost are rather tight.
That's true.
But that would still be super cool. Being able to like to do that, and yeah, it would be really cool. We also want to get to the point where we're able to like sponsor a lot of events, and be able to like travel with the brand. I think that would be pretty cool. But again, balancing powerlifting coaching with that is definitely difficult.
Right. That'd be really cool though. Do you have like an event that you would love to sponsor off the top of your head?
Probably, I would say one of the national events for USA Powerlifting would be really sweet. It would be cool to be able to sponsor the Arnold. That would be cool. Maybe even just like collegiate nats would be sweet. Raw nationals would be really cool. I know that they've done like for Raw nationals this past year, they did like commercials for some sponsors, which was really fun. So being able to like shoot a commercial for Gameday Nutrition would be pretty sweet. Outside of powerlifting, I don't know that I necessarily have any like dream events that I would love to sponsor. Maybe something. Oh, I don't know. Maybe something in the weightlifting realm, like the American Open would be super cool. A fencing tournament would be pretty sweet. And that's just that's a personal. Well, that's a personal one. I used to fence back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't anymore?
I don't. I actually want to pick it back up again though. Fencing is super fun. I mean, you're literally just you're fighting with swords. What's more fun than that?
Right. That sounds really cool.
It's super cool, man. Definitely, if you ever get the chance, I highly recommend trying it out.
I'll have to check it out because I am like the epitome of trying new things and trying all these different things. Like one of my friends said to me the other day, he was like, you need a hobby because you have too many hobbies. You just got to pick one and you got to cut the rest out. I'm like, all right, fencing it is.
All right, fencing it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's 3 different disciplines to fencing too, so you'd have to pick which one you like the most.
Really?
Yeah. So there's 3 types of swords, and each of the swords designates the particular type of discipline. So the one that most people start out with is foil. That's sort of my specialty, the one that I was best at. So it's a slightly shorter sword with a small guard, and you can only score points by scoring a touch, and your target area is the torso. Then there's saber, which is the one that most people think of when they think of sword fighting. So you have a longer sword with a large bell guard, and you can score points by slashing or by touching, and the waist up is the target area. And then there's épée, which is arguably the most difficult of all the disciplines. So again, you can only score points with touches, but the entire body is the target area. So you could like stab someone in the foot, and that's a point.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
All very, very, very fun disciplines. All like, and the moves are the same sort of across the disciplines. But yeah, it's super fun. And honestly, you dabble, if you're a fencer, you dabble in all 3 of them. It's just, you always have one that you're usually better at. Right. So for me, that was foil. It's
funny that you said that product, what'd you say the name of it was? The one that's similar to soy sauce, hybrid?
It's Hydro.
The first place my mind went was the UFC, because you see guys, do you follow UFC at all?
Not super closely. Like I'll see it posted on like people's stories, and I admittedly am a Conor McGregor fan, but like
me
besides
too.
Besides Conor McGregor, like I don't know that I really follow anyone super closely from UFC.
Well, you know who Khabib is, right? Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen videos of Khabib getting carried onto the stage for his weigh-in. So I could definitely see that having a really large market in the UFC. Absolutely.
I mean, that would be fucking sweet, man.
Right.
Hopefully I can swear on your podcast.
Oh,
that would be unbelievable. Maybe someday, man. That would be super cool.
Right. Now let's kind of move on to the gym a little bit here. So I didn't know the gym was 24 hours.
It is.
That's very unique and impressive.
It's super cool, man. So I think one of the things for Tim, Richard, and I, when we were kind of like sitting down in like 2020 talking about this hypothetically, we wanted to do something that was basically like us as lifters. What would we love out of any gym that we went to?
Right.
And so I remember, admittedly, this is like not the most original idea. Like it's not like there aren't 24-hour gyms, but I remember very specifically visiting this gym in Denver, Rocky Mountain Lifting Club. And something that I thought was super cool about it was anyone could get into it 24 hours a day, no matter what. It didn't matter if you had a membership or not. Even with a guest pass, you could get in there. And so I thought to myself, like, that would be a very unique thing to have for our gym. So yeah, we thankfully, our intern turned general manager, Andrew, did a lot of great research, and he found us this company in Canada called Rhino Fit that works with like, gym, like point of sale type stuff. And their app, you just have to get a scanner, connects directly to somebody's membership, and you can you don't even need like a key card. You just use your phone and you can get into the gym at any time. And basically anybody who wants to come to game day, even if we're not there, you just go on our website and you can buy a guest pass, and it'll prompt you to download the app, and you have access.
Wow.
Using a barcode.
That's very, very convenient.
It is. And admittedly, I don't think that people realize that just yet. But I've been telling the guys we need to do a little bit better promoting the fact that we have 24-hour access to literally everyone. But yeah, it's a pretty cool, unique thing. The gym, it's, steadily growing. We're only, 2 months in here, 3 months in here. And, we're seeing some really good growth, and I'm super pleased about it. I definitely want, by next year, it might be a little bit outlandish, but I would love if we could maybe hit like the 200, 250 mark as far as the membership goes. That would be like the ultimate dream. We're this close to 100 right now, and that's kind of the big like first round number. I mean, to get that in like 2 months is insane.
Right.
But I think, once we're getting a little bit closer to 200, that's to the point where not only is it like we're past the point of sustainable, and we're like, okay, we can actually like, start seeing some profit from it, which we can then put back into the gym and make it even better. And that was another one of the reasons why we picked the location that we did. If you haven't really looked at any of our content on it, that it's a 13,000 square foot facility, and we have a decent amount of room in there right now. So it does kind of feel a little bit empty, but that is kind of on purpose. We just, want to be able to add more stuff. We're actually getting 11 more machines here in about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that what made you want to open the gym, that gym you went to in Colorado?
No. What made me, that's, it's funny because I had this conversation with somebody about like, I think like 2019 about opening a gym. And at the time I was like, I would never want to open a gym. But what changed my mind honestly was, actually bringing the conversation around to TikTok. I was actually TikTok. I really wanted something to have like a base of operations from. I wanted to be able to like, go down there and film content and kind of use it like that. And so the sort of story behind this is, while Richard and I were talking about Gameday Nutrition, we were watching Tim's Twitch stream, and he mentioned that he wanted to start a gym, like that he was looking, and he mentioned that he was going to be moving to Austin. And I had been, at the time, I had been talking with my ex about moving to Austin. So I was just like, at the time, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, well, I'm going to be here anyway. I might as well talk to him about it. And I mentioned it to Richard, and he was like, we should go in with him on that. We should, jump on that. And I was like, okay. And so we got on a call with Tim, and yeah, the three of us just kind of like started, mind melding on it. And that's kind of how Gameday was born. And admittedly, the entire like mission of Gameday Barbell as a company isn't just like having a gym. It's the promotion of strength sport. And that's kind of what we wanted our facility to be. And that's basically how Game Day is going so far. Like, yeah, it's just a gym at the moment, but we're really using that as like a base to shoot all of our content from. We've got a podcast that's launching next year, and we more importantly are going to be having powerlifting meets there. So just another way to promote things and just continuously make the sport better, give back to it in our own special way. It's also our distribution center currently for Gameday Nutrition, as well as Richard's company, One Hunt. So just a bunch of different uses that we get out of it. It's not just a facility.
That sounds so awesome that you guys just kind of had that idea. And I feel like a lot of people would just more so sit on it and just not do anything and be like, yeah, maybe one day we can make it happen, instead of just all of a sudden just getting on a call and making it happen. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think that's so cool when people do that. And I've noticed that kind of in myself as well. The further I go along, the more I'm more apt to just jump into things and just say, let's do it. Like, time's a wasting, time's a finite thing. But kind of when you were opening the gym, what was the most hectic part about it? I know you mentioned earlier that you guys were basically doing everything yourself, but was there anything that really stuck out to you that was like, all right, I never want to see that happen again?
So like I mentioned before, we really, other than the electrical work, we did everything ourselves. Part of the issue with like a space here in Austin is that the real estate market is just very competitive. The real estate market across the United States is super competitive, but in Austin, it was just crazy. And no matter what, we were going to get locked in at 5 years. Everywhere we were looking, 5-year lease, no matter what. So we kind of said to ourselves, like, it just makes sense for us to pick the one that is going to, in the long run, have the lowest cost per square foot, and just bite the bullet and do some work. So that's kind of what we had to do. The biggest problem for us, so our gym, it had been vacant for 5 years, but prior to that, it was a manufacturing warehouse. I believe it manufactured pieces of like mobile homes, something like that. So it was just filthy. And the whole place was just like in shambles. And the biggest problem for us was the floor. The floor was disgusting. And we had to power wash it so many times just to get it to like the state that it's in. And then we had to reseal it. But I genuinely remember just like breathing a sigh of relief when the last bit of seal finally went down, and we were just like, okay, now we just have to worry about like mopping it every so often. Cause honestly, keeping that thing clean was the worst. And I can confidently say, if we ever open Game Day 2.0, which honestly is part of the plan eventually, that will be something that we will absolutely just hire people to do, because there's no way I'm doing that again.
That sounds insane. Like completely absurd.
Oh yeah, imagine doing that in a 13,000 square foot facility with a little like rinky dink power washer, mind you, one that it's not like we rented like the world's greatest power washer. No, we had this like tiny little one. It was just a pain in the butt. And like I don't necessarily like mind talking about it so much, but it also like it affected all of our personal lives a lot. We were there 8, 10, 12 hour, 14-hour days in the lead up to that, and that definitely was a big one for us. Like it was very hard to balance pretty much anything else, because we were arguably we're playing the role of every possible construction worker other than electrician, and I'll say thanks to Tim, because without him, we wouldn't have been able to do half the stuff that we did. His dad has had a lot of background in like construction stuff. So Tim had kind of grown up around that. So Tim had a background in it, and he took the brunt of a lot of it as far as like planning things out and figuring out how to do things. So I'll be forever thankful for him for that. And hopefully over time I can sort of add my own strengths to the gym now that we're a little bit more of a company and less of a construction project.
What does the market for powerlifting gyms like that look like out in Austin? Are there a lot around there, or not too many?
So there's one other one that I don't necessarily think it's purely a powerlifting gym, but caters to the powerlifting market. That's about 15 minutes away from us. But it's far enough away that like you don't necessarily get a huge crossover. Now, admittedly, the thing about Game Day is we're not just a powerlifting gym. I think that's something that is a little bit of a misconception at the moment, and might be why we don't see as many bodybuilders come in, but we are a gym. We are a full on, like, if you consider yourself a hardcore power lifter, if you consider yourself a hardcore bodybuilder, if you consider yourself a hardcore weightlifter, we are the gym for you. We're not just a powerlifting gym, just to clarify that. But there are other gyms in the area that cater to all of those things. It's just the thing, much like myself, Tim, and Richard, we want to, like, we bring our own sort of, all three of us have different like lenses that we come from in terms of the fitness industry. I'm a powerlifting coach who's been doing it for a long time. Richard's a world level athlete in powerlifting and an influencer. And then Tim is like an OG in the fitness space in terms of like putting content out there. So we all have our unique perspectives that we bring to the gym. Similarly, so that's kind of how we view the way that our gym is. We want something to be where, like, no matter what you want, we will cater to you in terms of your ability to have a good lift in our gym. We don't just want to be a powerlifting gym. We want to be the headquarters for everybody, no matter what kind of lifting they like to do.
Do you think you'd ever consider opening up, I guess, the clientele a little bit more towards like basketball players or MMA or anything like that, like other sports outside of kind of weightlifting, bodybuilding, and powerlifting?
Maybe I'm not completely against that. It's just, we would need we would need a lot more room, admittedly. Yeah. And if someday in the near future we are able to do that, I think that would be super cool. There's a space right next to us that admittedly just got rented out, but was vacant for like the first month that we were there. And we were thinking like, if this stays vacant for a long time, who knows? Maybe we could add it, because that's it would be another like 7,000 square feet. So, right. We could maybe become a 20,000 square foot facility, something like that. And I think in the long term, that would be really cool. Admittedly though, I think for us, our plan is maybe to open a second location before we ever expand Gameday, just because we already have so much space in there. We can really fit so much stuff in the current location that we would more than likely go for a second location first.
Do you have any ideal landing spot for that second location, or way too early?
It's probably a little too early. More than likely, what it would probably be either we go up to like the northern part of Austin, because our gym is currently in like the southeast, which is, I'm glad we ended up there. It's a really expanding area, and I think it's a good place to have the gym. But just because people are not gonna, because Austin's wide, people are not gonna drive like a half hour plus just to come to game day. So maybe having a northern location would be there, or maybe down in San Antonio. Just kind of depends.
Now, you've opened this gym. You're thinking about opening another gym. Would you recommend someone else open a gym after all the headaches you've had?
Oh, I would love to give a definitive yes or no answer. I don't think it's for everyone. And I mean, admittedly, like it's like there's definitely some challenges to it. I would say, if it's just you as a singular person, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it, because I don't think that I could do all of this stuff all by myself. And I know I can't do all of this stuff all by myself. And I'm thankful that I have a team of 5 guys around me, Tim and Richard, and then also my general manager, Andrew, and then Nico Flores, who's our head trainer and also has like a small investment in the gym. The 5 of us kind of working together to run the place currently is the only reason that we're able to make it work day to day. I don't know if I could do like 10 plus hour shifts every single day, day in and day out. I think I would probably go nuts. But it's, having a good team around you. I think if you do have that from the beginning, then yeah. Maybe also, I should say, maybe if the gym were smaller, I could probably say like you'd probably be better off that way. Yeah. So
it kind of depends if you like what you have for a team.
Yeah, I know that was a bit of a non-answer, but yeah, it depends. Depends on the type of person that you are and how big of a facility you're trying to open.
I think that makes a lot of sense, though. Like the guy that owns my gym, it's just him, and he's there every day from open to close, 7 days a week. I'm like, how do you do that and not go crazy? And he's been doing this for years. So I mean, props to him that he's still sane, but at the same time, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, and again. It really depends on the type of person that you are. Like for me, like this is my first like brick and mortar job professionally ever. Like I've worked entirely online my entire professional career since leaving school. So, maybe if somebody else kind of came up with that type of job, maybe it might be a little bit different, but
right.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, last question for you. Where do you
Sure.
want the gym to be in 5 years? What is your vision? Where do you want it to be in, I guess we'll say 2027, since we're basically at the end of 2021?
Gotcha. So for 2027 is actually when our lease is up. So I would like to see the gym having around 300 members. If we can get more than 300 over the course of 5 years, I will be over the moon. That'll be huge. And I would like for us to either be in the position to where we're able to renegotiate our lease and expand into that area that I mentioned before, if we hadn't already. I also would by then actually have liked to have opened another location. Like I said, I don't know where exactly it'll be, but I would like us to have a second location by the end of these 5 years, which I know is a bit auspicious, but I think we could do it. And I also would like to see it being in a position where it's like it's the gym that people like come out of town to visit. It has brand recognition on its own, separate from myself, Tim, and Richard. Like it's its own entity. And I would really love for us to have a big staff by then, like just, a group of people that help us run the gym. That not that I don't love doing everything, but, being able to kind of hand things off to other people, delegate tasks, and kind of just focus on being, one of the three owners and helping steer the ship, being able to actually settle into my role as the CEO of the business.
Joe, you're a good man. I really appreciate you doing this. I really appreciate you being so patient with all of these technical difficulties we've had. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, or if they want to check out your gym or anything along those lines?
Sure. If you want to check out Gameday Barbell, like I said, we're based in Southeast Austin. It's 1106 Smith Road, Suite 108 and 110. You can find more about Gameday Barbell at our website, gamedaybarbell.com, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Gameday Barbell. Me personally, you can find me on most social media platforms. My Instagram is Joe_Gameday. And the place where I do the majority of my content is on TikTok. You can find me there at the Joe Stanek. And I also occasionally do some streams on Twitch where I talk about lifting and I do form reviews. So you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Joe Stanek.
All of Joe's stuff will be linked in the description, guys. Make sure to go check him out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe as always. And until next time.